Record. All right. Well, hi, everybody. Rochelle, where are you? You're in the bullpen, man. That's serious stuff. Oh, my gosh. Talking to an arena. That's awesome. All right. So welcome, everyone, to the open house class. And so some of you maybe have been to a class that's similar to this. Mary, I know you've been at it, and I know some of the managers have been in it. But I teach a class every so often that's called What's in the Box. And it's probably my favorite class to teach because I love open houses. I think that as an agent, I saw a ton of success from open houses, and particularly new agents, I see them getting their first pieces of success from open houses. But everything has kind of changed in the past, 12 months now, it's almost been. So I thought that it would be good to do a What's in the Box class, but to have it updated and refreshed to take into account for sort of our pandemic world that we're living in. The good thing about the What's in the Box class, open house class, is that everything in it is really, it comes down to basic principles. And so, we're going to have to make some tweaks to convert it into 2020, 2021, and God willing, not 2022, but it all comes down to the same principles. And the biggest principle for me is preparation. And anybody who has taken the What's in the Box class knows that is really what the class is all about. It's about what can I do once and use over and over and over again. And we're not going to stray from that too much. We're going to go over the basics of the What's in the Box class, but if you've been in it before, don't feel discouraged, don't leave, because we're just really going to breeze right through that part of it, and we're only going to spend a few minutes on it. And then we're going to be talking about how do we take those principles and update them. So for those of you who have not seen the class, there is an actual box. When I say what's in the box, we actually mean there's a box, and this is my box. It's a little empty because I have a few things out just for ease right now. But the box is my grab and go. How do I hold an open house with 15 minutes notice and have a successful open house? But more importantly, how do I hold an open house that's going to make me stand out from people who might be doing other open houses that same week, weeks before, or weeks after? And so we're going to breeze through the what is actually in the box, because that's not going to change. If you are doing open houses right now in person, and we're going to talk about in person and virtual, but if you are doing open houses in person right now, you still need to have a box. You still need to have something. And we get that there's not as much handing out of information. People aren't going to necessarily pick things up from your pile or your display center. So we're going to talk about how can we convert what's in the box to make it a more pandemic friendly thing. And so in the box, let's see if I can get my screen to advance here. There's the joke that I always say in the class is this is from a movie, What's in the Box. And if you've seen the movie, you know what movie I'm talking about, because it's a head that's in the box and not flyers and resource centers and cards and contracts and things like that. But for our purpose, what's in the box is all tools that you might be using for your open house and the potential of writing an offer and connecting with a client. So simply what's in the box are these things: flyers, resource centers, cards, contracts, packets, sign-in, RPRs, paper, all of that stuff. I'm not telling you anything new when it comes to that. What I can tell you is that what's in that box essentially doesn't change. You might update the RPR report if you're in a city that maybe you don't normally do an open house in. You might update the RPR report every quarter. It's not something that needs to be updated every time you go do an open house. And the RPR report we'll talk about is really meant to pull in sellers, to have something to give them additional information that they're not getting from somewhere else and that they can't find publicly. All right, so when we do the What's in the Box class, we focus on these idea of resource centers throughout the open house. Because what I want you to do is I want you to visualize the worst open house you've ever had. And I can tell you mine in a heartbeat. It was on a Sunday at noon. I had been out all Saturday night before, probably drank a little too much, stayed up a little bit too late, hadn't prepared for my open house. And, I slept in, I get up, I have my coffee, I barely make it to my open house in time. You're sitting there, your fingers are crossed that no one's going to show up because you feel totally unprepared, right? And if you're like me, for the first hour and 45 minutes, nobody shows up and you're feeling like you're at the end and you're going to get away with it. And you hear the car door in the driveway. Somebody walks in the door, and then you find yourself 2.5 hours later, discussing whether or not that's rotting on the siding or if it's just paint peeling. But I was unprepared. I didn't want to be there. I was glad that nobody showed up. And I guess if it came down to it, and if it was about doing an open house that way or not doing an open house at all, probably every single manager and every coach would tell you, well, you should still do the open house, right? You're still going to connect with somebody, hopefully. You're still going to make that meeting and meet people who are out there. But it's not the best way to do an open house. The best way to do an open house is to be completely prepared for it without having to really do any preparation because you did it weeks ago. And everything that we're going to talk about are things that you can reuse over and over again. And they are going to help you stand out amongst your competition, other agents. Because people are going to walk into their open houses and they're going to have that experience that I just talked about. Or they're going to have somebody hand them a hastily made legal pad that's a sign-in sheet that they, faked the first person's name on. Or this is my favorite, when they hand you their phone and ask you to sign in on their phone. You are going to look so prepared and so professional if you have this set up that you're just going to set yourself apart from all of those other agents right off the bat. So I talk about doing a couple of different centers in the house, and you can see that there's a financing center, a seller's resource center, and then there's a testimonial center. And you can sort of see, I have set up here in my kitchen kind of what the testimonial center would look like. And they are really just flyers that I've put into frames, and they sit in a place in the house. With the testimonials, I recommend that they sit in the sort of upstairs, maybe in a bedroom, in a master bedroom, a primary bedroom, sit somewhere in the hallway, sit somewhere where the open house visitor can actually stop and look and read them. Because one of the truths about open houses is people have been trained to stay away from us. They come in, they do whatever they have to do to get into the house, whether or not that's signing in or not. And then they quickly get as far away from you as possible because they have been trained by previous open houses that an agent is going to badger them or an agent is going to try to pin them down and get them to answer questions. I think the best thing that you can do is introduce yourself, welcome the person, and then let them explore and let them, get a little comfortable in the space. And as they're walking around, they're going to see these centers. And every time they see these centers, you can see on these flyers, they see your picture, they see your name. And so it's reinforcement over and over again of who you are. And every time they see something like that, they get a little bit more comfortable with you, even though you haven't had a lot of face-to-face time yet. So the first thing here is the financing center, and we'll go back to the review center. I think that's the third slide in this section. But so the financing center is something that I do think you could keep close to yourself. So if your sort of main point in an open house where you're standing is in the kitchen or the dining room, you tend to stand somewhere a little bit more general. The financing center is the one that should be the closest to you because it's the one that I think is the easiest to talk about. People need to know about financing. Most of our buyers are financed. So keep that center close to you. In a typical world, we would have a packet of flyers that are appropriate for the house. If you are in a house where you think you could get physicians, keep the Physicians Plus program flyer out. If you are in a move-up house, you want to keep the buy before you sell flyer out. And in the real world, you'd be handing them these flyers, right? You're getting your name into their hand every time you do it. We'll talk at the end of this section about how do we get these into their hand in today's world, which I guess is not the real world. It's just the real world that we're playing in right now. All right, so that's the financing center. You'll want to have all of your finance manager's information in it, have their business cards, maybe even have them ready to take a call if you are at a hot house. The second center here, this is the most important center, is the seller's resource center. Now this is one that, again, it would look like this. It would look like these framed photos and then some piles around it that people, if they felt comfortable, could pick up. But we have a way to get them into their hands if they don't feel comfortable with it. The Sellers Resource Center should be located far enough away from you that somebody feels comfortable standing there and lingering. And by them lingering, it's not necessarily an invitation for you to come and approach them. So if I'm standing in the kitchen, this might be in the living room. If I'm in the living room, this might be in the kitchen. But you always want this to be somewhere that you can see, that you have a little bit of eye contact with, because you want to know who picks up anything in the Sellers Resource Center. That is your target. That's the ideal person who has walked into your open house. They have a home to sell. And I'm sure most of you would agree that if you have been stuck talking to a buyer for 15 minutes who's telling you all about the history of the neighborhood, but not giving you any good vital information about who might the next seller be, and you see somebody at the Sellers Resource Center pick this up, you're going to find a reason to stop talking to that person, and you're going to find a reason to start talking to that potential seller. So things that could go in the Sellers Resource Center are things about the Buy Before You Sell program. This is where I like to keep one copy of an RPR report. That way they sort of have to ask for permission, or I could give them permission to take it. Of course, I'll have more copies of it in my box. I don't just have one copy of it. Flyers or placards about the money back guarantee program. Buy side information would be incredible to have in the Sellers Resource Center. And then the third resource center is the one that I touched on earlier, and that is the testimonial resource center. And this is the one that I like to put further away from me. I don't need to see somebody stopping and lingering here, but we have all come to understand the importance of reviews, right? Reviews are just about I would say one of the most important things that we can do. Nobody goes to a restaurant without reading the reviews to see what other people thought of it first. You don't stay at a hotel without reading the reviews and seeing what other people had to say about it. So this I want to put somewhere where people feel that they could stop and spend some time and actually read them. So all of these graphics, this is a question that I'll get occasionally. These graphics were just made on Canva. You can make them on Publisher, you can make them on InDesign, and any type of graphic design program or publisher program that you're comfortable with, simple enough. And I'm just taking the reviews right off of Testimonial Tree. You could take them off of Google if you wanted to. You can grab them from anywhere. And I like to make them a combination of buyers, sellers. You know, if I've got something that's particularly fantastic, you know, I'll make sure that that one is there, short, long, mix them up a little bit, but give people the opportunity to read about you. All right, so this next slide, this is where I actually want everyone to get their phones out, because now we're going to talk about how do you take all of this and convert it into 2021, into pandemic. I don't want to touch anything. I don't want you to hand me anything. So I want you to take your phone out, and everybody knows what to do with this, right? The QR code. The greatest thing, the greatest comeback ever made in 2020 is the QR code. And I want everyone to actually scan this QR code, because it's going to give you the example of what I'm talking about. So when you scan this QR code, you are going to be taken into a program that you're all familiar with, and that's Open to Close. And I have it set up in Open to Close that right when you register, you're going to get the information about the house. So this is going to perform two duties for you. One, it's going to get people to sign in, because now they're going to get that flyer that they're so used to getting whenever they go and visit an open house. But you're going to see when you open up the link in Open to Close, it's going to give them so much more. It's going to give them details about the house, but it's also going to link them to your Real Scout account, to your Buy Side account. It can have a link to your reviews page. I included a little video to remind people of who I am. And it's got my 5 tips on how to get your offer accepted in this environment. And it's got a little information about Howard Hanna Mortgage Services in there. Is anybody having trouble scanning the QR code? I don't want to stop sharing. So if you are, go ahead and unmute and let me know. All right, it looks like everyone's doing okay with it. So I actually am going to stop sharing right now. So if you have not scanned this, please scan it because this is what I'm going to be talking about next because I want the open to close to open for you. And I can see my phone's been going crazy with all of you registering, so know that when somebody registers through open to close, you can actually have it set up so you get a text message notifying you that you've got a new lead that's been entered into your Moxie alerts. So it'll go into Engage as well. All right, so I'm going to stop share. I'm going to check the chat real quick. Oh, I'm sorry, Elizabeth, but I'm going to show the screen right now. And I forgot to actually have it set up. So bear with me while I go into my email to find it. I forgot that I would want to share this. All right, I'm going to be showing this to you guys here. So let me just find it. Okay. All right. So you can see here, this is the email that you get when you scan that QR code, and everyone who's scanned has it. And so now someone has signed in and registered in a touchless way, right? I haven't had to hand them a pen. I haven't had to hand them a tablet. I haven't given them my computer. They've done all of this on their phone. Every single person coming into your open house has a phone. And so this email will come to them, and I would tell them, it's going to send you an email, and you'll just want to go ahead and click on the link that says property details and buyer information. And this is what's going to open up in their phone, and it will look a little different on the phone because it'll be stacked a different way. And you can recognize right away that this was made via, oh, I'm getting my weekly call from Century 21 while we're talking. How exciting for us, huh? You can see that this was made in Hannah Presentations. So this is something that everybody has access to. And it is not hard to do. It might look like this was difficult to do, but again, this is something that you would only really have to do once. And then the only thing that you would need to change in it is maybe the picture over here for the house that you're holding open. And then if you wanted to update the automated market share, so it was a fresh one every month, you could do that. But I don't even think you have to do that every month. That's something, again, you could do every quarter. So you could see the 6 resources that I've essentially handed to a person without handing them anything right now. I've handed them information about the house over here. I've handed them in the middle. That is a snapshot of the rate lock of the rate plug page that Howard Hanna Mortgage gave me. Over here with the picture of the small houses with the arrows, that is going to be a link to buy side. When we go down, we've got basically a revamp where it's just one graphic of the testimonial and review center that we have in the house. But when they click on that link, it's going to take them to my reviews pages on my custom website. In the middle is a video on 5 things to do to get your offer accepted. And if you watch that, please know that I made that last night in one take in 5 minutes while my husband was making dinner behind me. So if I was actually going to give this to potential clients, it would be a little different, and my hair probably wouldn't be so gray at the roots, and you wouldn't hear a dog pitter-pattering and all of that. But I wanted to give you an example of something that you could put in to do a video. And then the final block is the automated market share that's available on GoHanna. So now I have 6 things on this page that are really, really helpful to a buyer, I think. But more importantly, I have 6 things on this page that look great, that nobody else is doing, and completely sets me apart from every other open house that this potential buyer might walk into. And so if you're talking to a potential buyer and maybe they're using an agent, and maybe the agent's from Canton, or it's their Aunt Sally's roommate from college, and they're not getting the results that they want or they need, this is their excuse to break away and start with you, right? Because they can say, well, look at this. You know, Aunt Sally's roommate isn't doing anything like this. Like, she wanted us to fax something to her, or, you know, she didn't even know how to set up a search. This is showing that not only do you have access to incredible technology, but you know how to use it, and you know how to use it to your buyer's advantage. So I'm going to click on a couple of these things just to show you where they go. First, I'll click on over here, which you could see is a screenshot from Real Scout. But when you click on it, it is a link directly into my Real Scout account. And it is linked to the house that I'm doing the open house on today. But we know that just getting people into Real Scout is a huge accomplishment, because now they're going to start to look in it. I got to get back to my screen. All right, going back. Like I said, this was a link to the rate plug sheet for Howard Hanna Mortgage. And when I click on that, it is actually going to take me to that full rate plug sheet that has the Howard Hanna Mortgage lender's information on it, and then also allows a potential buyer to play around a little bit. And this is where you might say, well, aren't we giving them too much information? No, because they already gave us the most valuable information there is. In order for them to get this, they had to give us their email or their phone number, right? And so I can give them everything at this point, because now I have my way to connect with them. And all I'm doing right now is showing my value. So over here on this graphic, the have a home to sell graphic, that's going to take somebody to the home valuation page in BuySide. And now, if you see someone who's registered for your open house, and then you see them get their home valuation, even if they don't put in their information, even if they don't give you the full lead, if it's just a partial lead, that's amazing information to have. This is the person you're going to hunt down, and you're going to find, and you're going to figure out how to start to connect with them. Again, this one in the corner here connects just directly to my reviews page on my Howard Hanna website. And so you want to make sure that you have that nice and completed and robust. And remember, it doesn't have to be previous clients if you're new. It can be previous colleagues, it can be family members, it could be your advocates, your sphere. I'll go over here to Lala Point. Now, I had to host this video somewhere, because you can't just post a video. So I did host it right onto YouTube, and it's a private link. And if you guys need help with that, that's something that I'd be more than happy to show you how to do. Once you've done it 1 or 2 times, it's very easy. And then the final thing is the video in the middle, because I want them to remember who I was. Because hopefully I'm going to have been the most warm, friendly person that they've met that day. And I'm giving them tips, even though they're not my client. Help my buyers get their offers accepted in this crazy low inventory market. The first thing, obviously, is price. We always have a good conversation that allows the buyer to understand that you're probably going to have a very high list to sale price ratio right now. We never advocate for anyone overpaying for a property. The second thing we talk about is dates. And dates are the thing that most buyers can be most flexible on. If you can leave your dates open-ended for the seller to decide, they will be more likely to pick you, because number one, you're going to work with their plans. And number two, you're going to show that you're the type of buyer that they want to work with. Number three is inspections. And there's been a lot of talk lately about buyers not having home inspections. And that's just something that we cannot recommend. A home inspection is your chance to learn about the property and learn how to be the property's potential new owner. But what you can do to send a signal to the seller that you're going to be the best buyer to work with is to put a limit on the amount that you would ask for as a result of home inspections. For example, we're willing to take ownership of the home as long as the recommended repairs are less than $3,000, meaning that you're not going to nickel and dime them when it comes to the inspection release. Number 4. And this is one that's super popular right now, the appraisal bridge. The appraisal bridge is very complicated, and so you would want to sit down and have a conversation with me, and I would explain to you what the purpose of the appraisal bridge is,
what that could cost you out of pocket, but how it could greatly impact your offer being accepted. And number 5, we always use this one as a last resource. If you want to show the seller that you are confident in financing and that you are confident in your ability to close the deal, you can make your earnest money non-refundable after the home inspection contingency has been released. If you just take 1 or 2 of these ideas and incorporate them into your offer, you're going to show the seller that you're the type of buyer that they want to be working with to get their house closed. And there's always number 6. Number 6, we strongly encourage that you're pre-approved with the Howard Hanna Finance Manager. When you're pre-approved with Howard Hanna Finance, the seller could know that your pre-approval is strong and it's worth its weight in gold. Most real estate mortgage companies have a pull-through rate of about 75%. That means they close about 75% of the applications that they write. We're at 98%. And what that means to a seller is if we're the offer you're going to accept, we're the offer that's going to close with you. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. I'd love to talk and sit down and have a buyer's consultation and help you achieve your goals of buying a house.
So simple. That wasn't hard to do. It could have been way better. I could have makeup on and my hair can be brushed, and there's definitely ways to improve it. But this whole thing that I'm showing you here, this is basically your virtual flyer. And it is going to help you operate in a world where people don't want to be face-to-face and in close contact with you. They're really hesitant to pick things up, to grab pens. And that's probably not going to change over the next few months. And this is something that you could take with you well past the next few months as well, because again, this is something that is going to be a difference maker. It's going to differentiate you from everyone else out there, unless they're from Howard Hanna and they're watching this class and they get the same idea to do it. But this is going to just show somebody how much harder you're willing to work because you were willing to be that much more prepared. All right, before I go on, let me see, are there any questions about what we've gone over so far? Everyone understands the idea of the centers in the house and the purpose of those. That shows your preparation. It gives you a chance to talk to a buyer without them being face-to-face, and it also warms them up to you for that moment when you do become face-to-face with them. And then the Hanna presentations on the phone, I know that's a little bit more technical, and that's actually a sort of a class in itself. And sometimes when I do classes like this, some of it is just letting you know what's possible. What I just made there, it took me, it probably took me about 30 minutes, honestly, to put it all together. I had like a couple of the graphics already done. And let's say it took you an hour to put it all together. You're only going to do that once, and then you're going to maybe swap out that one page for your weekly open house. So any questions so far? I don't see anything coming up in the chat. Okay. Well, I don't know what's next. Let's see. Let's see what's on the slideshow. Alrighty. All right, so I'm going to leave this up just for a minute because I know we had some people join us after this was gone. If you are just joining us, if you're on your phone, I know you won't be able to do this because your phone can only do one thing at a time. But if you're on a computer and you have the ability to do the QR code and to sign in, I want you to do it because that's the basis. It sort of ties up everything that we've just talked about for the first half hour of this. I will have this recorded, and I will send this out to anybody who might need it as a replay as well. So I was gonna swap over to this because we're actually gonna shift our conversation a little bit. Let me see if I can do this. I have to tell you, where I have my computer right now is making me feel very much like a T-Rex with short arms. All right, you guys can see this, right? All right, so this was something that I just ran across I think it was on Facebook yesterday. Oh, hold on. I opened up the wrong one. Trying to get to that. So this is a video I found on Facebook.
This is absolute insanity.
Car after car parked on the side of the road. This was the scene at an open house in Lancaster on January 31st. Realtor Stacy DiFilippo recorded the video.
You know, there were hundreds of people that showed up, and, you know, I had a buyer that I was bringing, and it's frustrating because you have to wait hours to get in, and sometimes you don't even get in at all.
So you have normal seasonality, you have the virus getting worse again around the holidays, and now the snow. You put all those three together, it's pushing inventory down as demand is soaring.
Scenes like this are becoming more common in the hot Massachusetts real estate market despite high prices.
So we listed our house on January 27th.
Well, we know how that story ends. And that actually takes place in Massachusetts in a town that's called Waltham. And it's real important that you know, if you ever go to Waltham, that it is pronounced Waltham and not Waltham, because they will tell you right away, because that is where I landed in a plane once to drive to Boston. And I said, we're going to Waltham. And the taxi cab driver actually looked at me and said, there isn't a town named Waltham, but there is a Waltham. And I literally wanted to smack him over the taxi seat. I was just like, you gotta be kidding me. So if you ever go there, it's Waltham. But it sort of points out to me that there are three different types of buyers right now. There are those buyers who are waiting 100 deep in their cars in the snow in Waltham, Massachusetts. I would say that those are A buyers, right? Those are buyers who are ready, willing, and able. I mean, those are hot buyers. There's the B buyers who know that they're going to move sometime this year. They know that it's in their plan. No urgency at this point, really sort of just getting the plan together. And then there's the C buyers. And the C buyers, we actually sell a lot of houses to C buyers. And C buyers are, hold on one second. So C buyers are these buyers. You guys all saw this weekend, right? Other than the heart-wrenching fact of Zillow getting a national platform of Saturday Night Live, this was pretty funny because these are your C buyers. These are the buyers who don't even know that they're shopping for a house. You know, they're the people who all of a sudden see opportunity or see a better life, and they become real buyers, and it happens real fast. So we know that everyone goes to certain websites to look at houses, including ours. You know, we know I have a client who's been in their forever house, and I truly believe that it's their forever house. And I can see her on Real Scout looking at houses every single day of her life. It's her hobby. It's what she does. But I guarantee you what's going to happen is at some point she's going to find a new forever house, and she's going to call me, and she's going to laugh, and she's going to say, Chris, Dave and I want to go see this house. We know when we bought this other house that we told you it was our forever house, but the girls are bigger, we got a bigger dog, and this house looks like it's just going to be amazing. So she's a C buyer. She's a buyer who doesn't even know it yet. And I think that if you look back at the people who had a lot of success over the past 12 months, they worked well with their A buyers. They got their B buyers off the fence and moving, but they really capitalized on those C buyers. Those buyers who went into this pandemic didn't think that they needed a big house, maybe realized it because they spent so much time on certain websites looking at listings. And I don't have a stat for this because I don't know how to measure it, other than to say that the people who I work with in my office that did virtual open houses over the past 12 months are all up in their business. I don't mean like up in their business. I mean like up in their business. And that's not a coincidence, because what they were able to do in a time that it was really hard to connect with people was to connect with people. And they brought buyers out of the woodwork, and they were able to present themselves to people and remind them that they were their trusted real estate professional. And while our world is slowly going back to normal, you know, with every shot in the arm there is, we're one step back to where we were a year ago. The love of virtual tours is not going to go away. But for some reason, we've all stopped doing them. And I cannot figure out why. I don't know if it's because we're truly not over that hump of this is what I look like, this is what I sound like, I'm going to make the video, or if we feel like it's an extra step. But I can guarantee you that if you're out there doing virtual tours and virtual open houses, you're going to see that business grow. You're going to continue to get people from your sphere. So we are going to talk about virtual open houses, and we're going to connect them to the idea of an in-person open house. The reason is because you're there, right? So if you're doing an in-person open house, you should absolutely be there an hour beforehand doing a virtual open house. You're already there. You've already made that drive to that house. You've already put your boots on. Do the open house because you are going to have people tuning in. Some of our best virtual open houses had over 1,000 views on them on the individual agents' social media websites. You know, that's 1,000 eyes, 1,000 people who reminded that you do this for a living and you're good at it. And you're out there doing it, which must mean that you're successful, right? You don't do these things if you're not a successful person. You know what an unsuccessful real estate agent does? They do nothing and they don't talk about it. And this is how you're going to show people that you're successful. Because when you're at that $500,000 listing doing a virtual tour, they think that it's your listing, right? And you can give credit to the listing agent. You know, whatever you've worked out with a listing agent as far as it goes, that's all fine. But the credit you're going to give to the agent is quick. It's in passing. Nobody's paying attention to it. I've seen it happen great. We did a lot of open houses for a couple of agents in the Avon office, actually, and they always gave credit to the agent. But you know whose business really grew from a result of it? The agent that hosted the open house, because they were out there being successful and showing themselves. So I just want to go over during the second half the idea of virtual open houses, because they should not be going away. Consumers do not want them to go away. There's a reason that Zillow skit exists on Saturday Night Live. People love to see the inside of other people's houses. And while they might not go out and get in a line for an hour in the snow right now to do it, they're certainly going to tune in via their social media. So just a quick review on how to maximize the portion of an open house, because now you're having two events that you get to capitalize on. One of them is the virtual aspect, and one of them is the in-person aspect. You know, when you're going to be doing the virtual, you can schedule it in the MLS, you can schedule it on howardhanna.com, but most importantly, you want to schedule it on your own social media. So you want to do it on your business page with a Facebook event and share the Facebook event to your personal page as well. You want to share it to Instagram, you want to share it to LinkedIn. If you're looking for content for LinkedIn, this is a really easy way to do it. It's hard to stay up to date on Facebook and Instagram and whatever other social media apps that you're on, and then add LinkedIn to it at the end. So if you're looking for real quick, easy things to do, this is a good one for LinkedIn. You definitely want to share the event on your personal profile. And you want to ask the people that want to see you succeed to RSVP to it, because success breeds success. So invitations breed more invitations. Acceptance breeds more acceptance. So if you've got a Facebook event for your virtual open house, it's going to be from 12:30 to 1, and there are 15 people that have RSVP that they're going to go, it makes it a lot easier for that 16th person to hit, yes, I'm going to go to this as well. And then they get the reminder that they're going to go to it. You want to advertise your virtual and in-person open house by posting some sort of teaser in advance to it. And so this could be a day before. Day before is probably the right target. It could be 2 days before. It could be a picture of something interesting in the house, the neighborhood. I love doing signs like that in the middle where it's a picture of me with the handwritten chalkboard or holding up a sign, because, you know, if this is on my personal page, everybody wants to see what you look like every day, right? They want to know what you look like on a Tuesday as well as on a Saturday night. So they're going to look at the picture. You could post a video. I am a huge fan of videos. I got over it a long time ago. This is what I look like. This is what I sound like. That's not going to change when you meet me in person. So you might as well see it now. And then the final thing on there is that rate plug flyer as well, because that's really good, useful information. And then right before you go live, so about 30 minutes, maybe before you leave your house on the way, another teaser post that says, I'm about to go live in 30 minutes. I hope you watch. Like, let me know. I'm always trying to get better. And people will be on the lookout and then they'll watch it. And every time you do something like this, again, you're reminding them of what you do for a living and you're reminding them that you're good at it. So these are all touches. You know, that's why I call this portion, I can't even remember what the number is, 99 touches for a virtual house, probably 15 or 20. And then go live. I'm looking at some of the faces that are in this group and I'm seeing some of the names that are on here. And I know some of you are doing this. And I also know that some of you had been doing this and you're not doing it anymore. And I'm here to tell you to get off your butt and keep doing it because it is a difference maker and it is going to get you business. And here's the best part about it. It doesn't cost anything, right? You're just going live. And if you really screw it up, and that never happens, you know, when you screw up, you laugh about it. But if you really screw it up, let's say you make a terrible fair housing violation, and it happens. Sometimes you walk through and you're like, look at this adorable nursery. This house would be great for a family. And then after you're done with it, you're like, oh my gosh, I just recorded myself making a fair housing violation. You don't have to post the live video. You know, you don't have to make it a post. It could disappear and now it's done. But that doesn't happen that often. Now, when you're done with it, you want to make sure that you're taking full advantage of what you have just made. So you've got a good video, you've got a good walkthrough, you're trying to develop your YouTube page. You can download that live video and put it on YouTube as well. And so it can be used in a bunch of different places. Once you download it, you can use it on Instagram and you can get it onto IGTV. And that's going to take advantage of a whole different group of people that may follow you on social media. You know, I know a lot of us follow people both places, Facebook and Instagram, but I also get the fact that I'm a 46-year-old mom who is probably not doing what I need to do on Instagram. I'm a little too Facebook heavy for the future. And I'm trying to make those changes. And it's hard for me because I don't always have the content. I don't have the pictures of the pretty shoes and the snow and the coffee cups and all that stuff. But what I do have is I have these videos of these open houses, and that can be some of the content for me on Instagram and IGTV. And now I'm showing it to people who are only following me there. Frankly, I can't imagine why somebody wouldn't follow me in all places, but that's beyond me. And again, YouTube, you know, one of the things that we do need to be doing is developing our YouTube. For every time we focus on one of these sites, whether it's YouTube, Google business page, Instagram, Facebook, you're increasing your SEO optimization. That means when somebody runs a search on something to do with you, you're going to come up higher. You know, you might even hit the first page, which is amazing because a lot of people that hit the first page are paying millions of dollars for that to happen. And again, LinkedIn is another place where you can do it. If you are the listing agent, you can post your virtual tour on the MLS. Now, there have been some rules that have come out since I originally made this slideshow at the beginning of the pandemic. You have to be very, very clear not to discuss your brokerage or your name if you're going to post it on the MLS. It can't be any identifying information. You can't say, give me a call for a private tour. Can't say it's listed with Howard Hanna, because all of that goes against the MLS rules. When we first made this, they were very lax about it, and they were kind of like, do what you got to do. We're all just trying to survive. But now that's something that would catch somebody's attention. So you do want to make sure that you've got, it's called an unbranded version. And maybe your unbranded version is not the one that you went with live on your Facebook page. You know, maybe you say after the open house and you just make a quick unbranded version, being very careful to not mention those things. And then obviously after you've done your open house and you've had, you know, 500 viewers and all of your friends have commented and your Aunt Nancy said that you look great and she's so proud of you, do a follow-up post. Tell people how many people watched your video. You know, reshare it and say, can you believe that 650 people watched this video? I'd love to know what you think. Because you know what's going to happen? You're going to get another 100 people to watch that video. And it's all about staying in front of everybody. So that sums up everything that we just went over with the 15 points of content contact. And then just some final points on the virtual aspect of this. You know, Facebook favors live videos. It is going to, if you're doing your live video from your business page, if you've ever posted a post on your business page and you look at the audience reach on it and you've had a sad moment when you said, oh my gosh, this got delivered to 7 people. If you're going live on your business page, that's not going to happen. Facebook wants live content. Facebook wants video. So it's going to give it to more people. And then obviously you're going to put it on your personal page as well. But that is a question that I always get about the virtual open houses, and that is business or personal. I can tell you that the strict answer to that is business, and that is for compliance reasons. When you are posting something on your business social media page, you're covering your butt when it comes to branding, acknowledging the broker, giving somebody an identifiable way to get in contact with you or your the person in charge if needed. When it comes to virtual open houses, you're probably going to get more footage from it, more action from it if it's on your personal. So you just do want to make sure that you're kind of covering yourself compliance wise. It's not something that we're seeing coming up very frequently right now, but you never know who's out to get you. So you always want to be watching out. And then I had this on my previous screen, and this is just some notes about open to close. And because we did use open to close in this whole virtual process, but open to close is something that you really need to be using, whether it's, you can use it virtually. There are virtual options. There are options to do private showings. And then there's obviously the in-person option. These statistics are about the in-person option. What we have found is that 93% of people actually leave their real information when it comes to open to close. For some reason, when you're handing somebody an iPad or a laptop, if that's how they're signing in and you're not using the QR code sign, they're more likely to actually give you the real information. 49% are actual people who are on social media. So you can do a little stalking and figure out what their pressure points are. And 71% of visitors are unrepresented. And that is the 71% that you want to connect with, right? So let me stop this and let me first check the chat. And I don't see anything. Anybody have any questions? Because I know that is a whirlwind of information in an hour. I'm going to pause.
I have a question.
Yes, Lauren.
The sheet that you made on Hannah presentations, how did you get like all those different, like I know how you got the pictures, but how did you like actually get them on there in Hannah presentations?
So when you go into Hannah presentations, and if you look on the left-hand side of the screen, when you're still like in the editing thing, there will be a button that says add page. When you hit add page, there are 2 options. One is to upload a PDF and the other one is to create a custom page. And so when you create the custom page, it's going to give you some options on what the layout is. You know, do you want it to just be one bar with a picture? The one that I chose was obviously the 6 pictures. And then what those are is I uploaded the picture and then you click on the picture and you add a hyperlink to it. And so it hyperlinks back to wherever I wanted it to. Let's see here. There was a question about the QR code. So the QR code that I used, and don't scan this one because it's not an accurate one. This is for a different class. The QR code that I use is actually available to you through Open to Close. And so just try to remember off the top of my head. Number one, you can, this is something I know your managers can help you henpeck your way to. Sue, I'm looking at you. But it's you go into, it's like the sign up sheet, and there will be a tab that says view print version. And under view print version is where you can actually grab that QR code and you just take a screenshot of it and use it as an image and pop it into whatever you want. You can actually print the page that's right there, but it's very institutional and unattractive, you know, so really you just want to grab the QR code from right off of there. Will I be doing a Hannah presentations class? No, that's Megan Kopp's territory, isn't it? So we're going to have her do a Hannah presentation.
Oh, yes. Thanks.
That's your territory.
I'll be right on that.
But if for some reason Megan doesn't want to, you know, I don't mind doing this. How do you use open to close for a Facebook Live open? Okay, this is hard to explain without showing it, and I don't necessarily want to go into it. But whenever you put the property in to open to close, so you're either putting the MLS number or you are creating, you know, a property. Whenever it says, you know what, hold on, I'm going to have to actually look because I don't remember. It's not super challenging. You know what, hold on. I don't really want to lose that page. Let me go on a different page. Okay, so I created, this is the actual one that I used today. Let me see. I have to like peck around a little bit sometimes. I think it's this edit sign in. Yeah, edits. So I'm going to close that and show you what I did. So over here in the more edit sign in forms. And now you'll see over here that there are 4 different options. This is your default because it's the in-person open house. The second is the virtual open house invitation, virtual tour request, and private event. So I think, Liz, what you were asking is the virtual open house invitation. So you get somebody to register for you, and then you actually schedule a session here, and then that gives them all of the information for where they are supposed to tune in at. If you've got something pre-recorded and you want to use it to market a listing, then you would use this virtual tour request, and then it would have the link to the video hosted on YouTube right there. You know, the real benefit of using this open to close is that it is meant to eliminate steps for you. You know, so now you've got somebody who registered, and when you register them, instead of just registering them through, you know, a Google Sheet or just an email or a reply, if they register through open to close, then they're going to go into your Engage, they're going to get set up in Real Scout, and so much of that hard legwork is going to be done for you. And that's all the questions I have.
I have another question.
Yeah, another one.
What advice do you have on approaching list agents to ask about doing a virtual open house?
So, I mean, we've had this issue. It's a really, I'm glad you asked the question, because part of it is the more you ask, the more you're going to find someone, right? So don't get discouraged if somebody says no. I do think for the managers that are on the call, it's part about what we're able to talk about with our heavy listers, because what we have to get the heavy listers to realize is that when you do a virtual open house on your social media, you're not taking any of their clients. You know, your worlds, you know where your worlds overlap? All these people in the middle, they're realtors. Like, so they're not going to be either of your client. All of these people are yours and all of these people are theirs. And if you do a virtual open house at their listing, you're not taking business away from them. So there is a little bit of a struggle to overcome that hurdle. So I think as managers, we can talk about that to encourage people. The most important thing I think that you can do is just making the relationships with the listing agents, because then they know, trust, and like you. They know you're going to represent their product well. You know, they know that when the video goes out there, if their seller somehow sees it, they're going to be pleased with the result of it. And I know that's really hard right now in this sort of limited office environment, but I think in general, that's the best way to do it. The second thing I think that you could do is don't always do them on a Sunday, because then if you're not doing them on a Sunday, so if you're doing your virtual and it's just on a Thursday night, that listing agent may be a little less likely to think of it as an open house, you know, as missed opportunities. And they're just thinking of it as, I would like to do, you know, an online walkthrough of your house and show it off and try to get it in front of more people. So I think that those are probably the best ways to get it. But persistence is the key. That's what I would have to say. How about other managers? Do you guys have any insight on that? Just shaking her head.
In our office, people just send out an email blast to just a general, hey, I want to do an open house. Does anybody have an open house that, any place that, and inevitably somebody has a listing, although listings are a little low right now. But usually there's somebody who will reply and say, hey, hold this one open. Or if you have a particular property, reach out. I have personally reached out to agents and said, hey, I really like your property. Are you okay with me doing a virtual open?
Mm-hmm.
And I give them the date and the time. And I've never had somebody say no to me when I've reached out to them.
And I think that speaks to the culture at the city office. They all really get along really well. So I think because we all get those emails every week, I want to do an open house. Who's got an open house? And it's funny because I always tell my new agents, like, when the listing agent is the one that says, does anyone want to do this open house? What's wrong with it? But at the same time, I think that any house is a good open house. If we have to stop focusing on the, $450,000 listing in Rocky River and the $350,000 listing in Lakewood. And, understand that the $90,000 listing in Old Brooklyn or West Park is just as good as an opportunity. It's a different open house because now maybe you're walking through it and talking about potential and possibility. And, you're appealing to, yes, a different, maybe lower buyer, but you may be appealing to an investor who wants to buy 10 houses. So don't get hyper zoomed on it's got to be the hottest, best, rehabbed, hit the market last week house. You can do construction sites walkthrough as a virtual open house. When you've got something that's, at walls, like as long as it's a safe place for you to walk through, make that your virtual open. Like don't get so laser focused. I cannot believe I said that because it is my least favorite phrase right now. But don't get so focused on it being the best, most sellable listing because that's not what you're doing. When we do open houses, we do them for a bunch of reasons. We do them to make the seller happy sometimes. Maybe we're not in that market as much right now as we were a couple years ago, but some of you who are newer are going to realize there comes a time when a house doesn't sell in 7 days and it's been on the market for 9 months and your seller wants you to do an open house and you're like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard, but you have to do it because that makes the seller happy. How do you make the most out of it? We do open houses to sell the house that we're at, but we know that there could be 15 offers at that house. So that's probably not the best way to frame it. And we do open houses because open houses outside of opportunity time and floor time are literally the only way that we can get our customer to come to us. And so that customer, whether they're coming to us virtually or whether they're coming to us in person at the actual open house, they want all sorts of products. So let's just make sure that we are focusing on any listing just to have an opportunity, because that's what this is. It is an open house, virtual or in person, is your biggest opportunity right now. Any other questions? I want to know what Rochelle's having for lunch.
I know, I was thinking the same thing.
I'm sure there's like, I don't know, maybe like farro and beans and sprouts and things like that in it.
She's on the phone, I think.
I'm hoping it's a big giant piece of chocolate cake.
Chris, you did a fabulous job. Thank you so much.
All right, well, so last chance for any questions.
I'm having chili.
You're eating chili. Beans, I knew there were beans somewhere in there. All right, if there aren't any other questions, we will wrap this up. We did it in an hour, which is, I think is pretty amazing.
Hey, Chris, I have a question.
Yes.
So I've done this once and I had a hard time on my phone answering, like if someone asked a question, like responding to anyone on the phone who might post a question at the same time as like focusing on the video. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
I do, yeah.
It was very awkward. And I
Yeah,
missed
because it's like a
it. Like,
lag almost. Yeah.
and I didn't see them. Like I didn't see them until after the fact. I'm like, oh man, someone was like asking me a question or asked me to see something else, and I totally missed it.
Mm-hmm. So let me a couple pieces of advice on the phone whenever you're at the virtual open. The first one, and this is not an answer to your question, but make sure that all of your other apps and everything are closed. So go through and make sure that you've closed everything, because that will affect your your self-service, and it will help to prevent the lag time and drops and all of that stuff. And if you're at a large property, you might want to test out whether or not your phone is going to drop off at certain places. You know, we've done some larger properties where you've tried to walk the grounds and things like that. And if it keeps dropping, people are going to stop watching, you know. So that just reminded me of that. But I think to answer your question, it can be hard because you're trying to stay focused. You're trying to sound, you know, intelligent and be really presentable. So I think that maybe you just want to work into your script a couple of times. You know, I'm going to try to answer some questions, but if I miss them, you know, I will look before I end video, you know, and take, it's okay to have like a dead minute where you're looking and saying, like I did with this class a couple of times, where you're like, okay, now I'm just going to stop and I'm going to look and see if there's any questions. And then, so either you're stopping to check for questions throughout, or at the end of it, you're saying, you know, before you go, I'm just going to see if there's any questions. If you've asked me something, just hold on. It takes me a minute. Or you could say throughout, you know, it is hard for me to pay attention to the live comments. Like, I promise you, if you ask me a question and I don't get back to you during this video, like I'll send you a message right after, and we can either look at what you want to look at again, or I'll have the answer for you. Because we're only human, you know, it can be overwhelming. And especially if you haven't done a lot of the virtual open houses, the first couple of times can be a little scary. I'm not gonna lie, but I'll tell you what, the third time is much easier, and then the fourth time is way easier. And by the time you're doing it the fifth time, you're ready for a TV show. So, so just keep doing it. All right, let me see.
Can you use two different devices? Like, you know, can you be recording on your phone, but then have an iPad set up somewhere that you're looking at for answering questions, or does that get too confusing?
I think that would be more confusing when you start to use more than one device, especially if you're using them for different camera angles, because you may have seen people doing that. They generally have a second person there with them, and then they're using an app that's called like StreamYard. There's a few different ones, like where you're able to use two. I think it would be pretty challenging, and it might be taxing again on the cell service. So I'm not sure it would be a good idea. But here's one more tip on the virtual open house. So when you get ready and you're doing your virtual open house and you've got your phone in your hand and you're ready to hit live, you want to make sure that you've already typed out where you're at, what you're doing. You know, so you're not just going live and it's just you and people are like, well, what is she doing? You know, where is she? So you want to say, you know, like, join me for my open house at 123 Main Street. You know, I'll do my best. And this is where you could put that. Like, I'll do my best to answer any live questions that you might have. But if for some reason I don't see it, I promise you I'll get back to you right after the broadcast. Like, that would be a good place to put that. That way it's just consistently there.
I have one more question.
Mm-hmm.
So I have, if I'm doing something like in a high rise in the Gold Coast, and can you pause, or like, how can I transition to like go show the pool in the lobby and stuff like that? Or should I just skip that part?
So, okay, the best advice that I could always give you is to start at the very top floor. That way you don't have to walk up any stairs and be live on video, because I mean, I think even Rochelle would be out of breath at that point. And she's, you know, like so I always start top down. If I'm in like a townhouse, like with a roof view or anything like that, if you're talking about somewhere that has an elevator, you're probably not going to be able to do one continuous live stream. So I'm not sure what the best solution for that would to be, other than to be two separate ones, and you say, hey, we're going to take a 30-second break. I'm going to ride the elevator down, and then I'm going to start live again whenever I get to the first floor, or whenever I get to the common room, or, you know, wherever it is. that's probably the best thing that you could do with that.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right, I'm gonna do, just as we're finishing up, I am going to repost this QR code just in case anybody didn't get a chance to see it, because I think that it is, well, frankly, it's the thing I worked the hardest on, so I want to get the most legs out of it. So just in the event that you did not get, if you joined us afterwards, or you didn't get a chance to scan this, I just want to make sure that everybody here has scanned this. I don't care if you could see the rest of PowerPoint, but that is what's going to show you a really great example of how to have all digital handouts and to capture people's information. So if you hadn't scanned that yet, please do. That's the good stuff. That's the fun stuff of what we talked about today. All right, last chance for any questions. All right, I think that's it. And yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to send a recording of this class out to all the managers in the West region. So if you want to watch it again, if you didn't get enough of me, feel free to ask your manager for it, and they will have a link to where it'll be hosted on YouTube.
Would you have PDFs of some of those the signage that you put up in open houses, just to give us an example?
Susan, because you are my agent in my office. Yes, no, I'll send out the PowerPoint with the link to the video for everybody.
Thank you.
Because the what's in the box portion of this is something, it's evergreen. It's always going to be important. That's never going to go away. I don't think this virtual thing is ever going to go away as well, though. So I think we can consider that just a part of the new normal, and we need to be focusing on that just as much. All right, you guys, thank you so much for joining us, and I hope you have a great day.
Thank you, Chris.
Zoom wave!
Thank you. Thank you.